Hey guys, today we're going to be talking football. Specifically, we're going to be predicting the divisional round of the 2024-2025 NFL playoffs. If you don't recognize my voice, my name is Antonio. I'm Ricardo's older brother. Starting today, I'll be contributing a little bit to the channel. My main passions are football and combat sports. I'll be branching off into other sports here and there, but for the most part, that's the kind of content I'll be covering. I wanted to personally thank each and every one of you for all the love and support that you've shown my brother. He works his ass off and he puts his heart into this, so it means a lot. With all that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into the video. Okay, starting off, we got the number 4 Houston Texans coming in as the biggest dog of the weekend, taking on the number 1 seeded Kansas City Chiefs. Houston coming off a surprising beatdown victory against the Los Angeles Chargers to kick off Super Wild Card Weekend. They win 32-12 in what could honestly be described as an absolute stinker of a performance by Justin Herbert. He goes 14 for 32, completing less than 50% of his passes, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, QB rating of 13.0. Yeah, needless to say, not the performance we were expecting from him going into the weekend. LA wasn't like super heavily favored in the matchup, but I mean, it was pretty much the consensus opinion among NFL experts and fans alike going into Sunday that this was LA's game to lose, and lose they did. I don't think we could put it all on the Chargers though. A tremendous amount of credit has to go to DeMeco Ryans and this Houston Texans defense. They went crazy. Eric Murray, who had himself a night, he led the defense with 7 total tackles, 4 solo tackles. He was all over the place. They get Azeez Al-Shaair back from injury. He played a key role. Henry 2-0-2-0. Will Anderson, who by the way is an absolute monster. He had a sack and a half as well as a tackle for loss. Daniil Hunter, he's been very disruptive. Miles Bryant, everybody really pitched in. But in my opinion, the standout player of the night on defense for me was none other than Derek Stingley Jr. He finished the game with 4 solo tackles, 5 passes defended, 1 forced fumble, 2 interceptions, and 0 touchdowns allowed. Dominant performance from the third-year LSU product. This was a beatdown. On the offensive side, CJ Stroud had himself a moderate to pretty good performance. Threw for about 300 yards, 1 touchdown, one interception, 64.9 QBR. Ditto with Joe Mixon. He had a good game, 25 carries, just over 100 yards, 4.2 yards per carry, and 1 score. Really, the 2 best players on the football field were the 2 leading receivers for each squad, namely Ladd McConkey for the Chargers and Nico Collins for Houston. Nico finished with 7 receptions for 122 yards and 1 touchdown. McConkey, my God. He had 9 receptions for nearly 200 yards and a score. Those are big-time numbers. Both guys have been doing this all season, especially McConkey. With that being said, job well done by DeMeco Ryans getting this football team focused and ready to play their best game. Despite all the doubt and the outside noise coming in, a lot of people had Houston as their lock to go one and done this week. Shit, even Rex Ryan went so far as to say Houston should be considered a bye week for the LA Chargers. And of course, everything that man says, they just like milk, and they went ahead and silenced all the critics. Shocker. However, now they leave home to travel to Arrowhead to take on their defending back-to-back Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm just gonna come off rip and say it right now. Houston is coming off a stellar 4 interception performance against Justin Herbert and the Chargers. No doubt about it. They bullied LA up front, but Patrick Mahomes is not Justin Herbert. Arrowhead is not Houston. Yeah, the Chiefs haven't been too impressive in the regular season as of late, the past couple years, despite literally being 15-2. But we all know how this goes. Much like LeBron in his prime, they turn it on in the playoffs, baby, especially Travis Kelce. That dude literally transforms into a different human altogether in the playoffs. And they're no slouch on defense. Chris Jones has been by far the most disruptive pass rusher this season, posting the highest pass rush win rate in the league. Ever since Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes has taken over in KC, winning the divisional round has become just a thing of habit. It's like a foregone conclusion. They don't even think about it. It's just something that they do. It's almost like the playoffs don't even start for Kansas City until the conference championship round. I'm not gonna lie, I'm having a hard time seeing Houston putting a stop to that trend this year. Say what you want about the Chiefs. Yeah, they've been extremely lucky a lot this year. But they're a reason why they're the number 1 seed again. They're the reason why there's a favorite to make it to their 7th straight AFC Championship game again. and there's a reason why they're the reigning, defending back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Kansas City is a bona fide dynasty, and if they win the Super Bowl this year, they'll probably go down as the greatest dynasty in football history. I could see them starting out slow. The starters have been off for about 3 weeks at this point, I think. But they'll be well rested. And obviously, Patrick Mahomes is no stranger to playing and winning from behind. Just take a look at any of his entire playoff history. Upsetting the Chiefs is not going to be an easy thing to do. I think that the Texans are going to have any chance to do so. CJ Stroud is going to have to play 60 minutes of flawless, mistake-free football. They can't rely on him too much. They're going to have to run the ball with Joe Mixon and try to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. They're going to have to control the time of possession, really milk the clock, win the turnover battle. And most of all, that Houston D has got to get to Patrick Mahomes. Make his life miserable. They're going to have to be very violent up front and get home early and often. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson have got to absolutely go ham. If they're going to pull all that off, I think it's extremely important for the Texans to draw first blood. Shit, I might even be aggressive and take the ball first if they win the coin toss. Yeah, that might be a little risky, but I mean, no risk, no reward, right? Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but look, if I'm Houston, I'm doing everything in my power to put myself in position to score first. Playing from behind, especially against Kansas City, is going to make everything that I just said they needed to do to win this game a lot harder. Now, do I think they can win the game given their best effort? I think they could have won this game, but they need Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs. Nico Collins can't do it all by himself. I think having Tank and Diggs on the field would make Kansas City have to be a lot more disciplined in the secondary. But without them being there, I'd imagine Kansas City will be able to throw some double teams at Nico Collins and really lean into stopping the run, which in my opinion would take away Houston's best opportunity to pull off the upset, because I don't think they're going to be outscoring Kansas City in the shootout. And if that's what both teams need to do to win, look, I know Kansas City hasn't played great this year on offense, but they do what they need to do to win. If they need to score 16 points to win, they're going to score 16. If they need to score 32 points to win, they're going to score 32. That's the kind of team the Chiefs are. Of course, I could obviously be wrong about everything. Houston could come out and shit stomp the Chiefs for all I know. This is any given Sunday type of league. That being said, I got the Chiefs coming out on top 28-16, sending Chiefs Kingdom once again to the conference championship game. I just really have a hard time seeing this Texans team as it is now walking into Arrowhead Stadium and taking out Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid. Maybe if they were put together a little bit better on offense with less injuries, they could match up a lot better, but not right now. Look out for this team in 2025, though. I think getting healthy in the offseason, having another year to develop CJ Stroud, and adding a couple more key pieces in free agency and through the draft can really have this team vying for a championship as soon as next year. Okay, but next up, the number 5 seed out of the NFC East, Washington Commanders, go head-to-head with the top seed in the NFC for the first time ever, Detroit Lions. I really want to talk about two guys here. First off, on the side of Detroit, Dan Campbell. Good God, can that man coach his ass off? What an incredible story. What an incredible turnaround from 3-14 as a rookie head coach in 2021 to 9-8 in 22, 12-4 last year, and now it's 2024 divisional weekend. Dan Campbell leads the Detroit Lions to the number 1 seed for the first time in franchise history. A 15-2 record, best record in franchise history. For all intents and purposes, this is the best Detroit Lions team we've ever seen. I'm not going to get too much into the stats for this one. I really want to talk about Dan Campbell and Jaden Daniels. These two guys are, in my opinion, in a very specific way, a huge reason for why their teams are where they are right now. Dan Campbell has been a huge tone setter and a culture shifter for a team who has just been abysmal up until this point for a large majority of their franchise history. For the longest time, Detroit Lions have been like a bottom-end franchise when it comes to relevancy and year-to-year competitiveness. They've had incredible talent over the years. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, Matthew Stafford, some of the most awe-inspiring, physically gifted athletes we've ever seen play the game. All that talent, though, being completely wasted away by mismanagement, mediocre quarterback play, horrible team building. The formula for Detroit has just been find the most physically gifted football player on the planet and just hope for the best. That doesn't work. For a franchise to win a Super Bowl, everything has to be firing on all cylinders. You have to draft well. You have to develop well. You have to acquire talent. You have to, know who to pay, who not to pay, and how to lock down your key starters for the long run. But most importantly, for a franchise to be successful, you need to establish a culture, a winning culture. And a huge part of that comes down to who you hire to become the head coach of your football team. And for all the shit, that Dan Campbell took after that opening press conference, after year one, losing in the NFC title game last year and all the ups and downs, people doubting if they'd be as good this year, people doubting if they'd be able to compete with teams like Minnesota after all the injuries on defense. I mean, this guy has really turned things around in a huge way for the Detroit Lions. This doesn't feel like a flash in the pan. This feels like a real winning culture and a sustainable winning culture. And for the first time, it really feels like Detroit Lions are, here to stay and compete for conference titles and even Super Bowl championships for, the next 5+ years to come. I mean, look at what they've done this year. They've taken a defense made up of outcasts. 14 plus injuries, most of them on the defensive side of the ball. Aiden Hutchinson is still leading the team in sacks. He hasn't even played since mid-October. That should put into perspective just how massive of a loss he was. I mean, through 6 weeks, he was literally tracking to be the best defensive player in the league. If he doesn't go down, they might not even lose a single game this year. I mean, come on, they're playing with mostly no names out there. And yet they had this squad looking like a top 5 unit against a red-hot Sam Darnold-led Vikings offense. I mean, Dan Campbell went out and found some random dude that's been running the ones with Justin Jefferson since they were kids, who knows him like the back of his hand, and just threw him out there against arguably the best receiver in the game. And homeboy showed out. Like, what else is there to say, man? Dan Campbell took over in 2021, and he's been fucking biting off kneecaps ever since. The offense is as electric as any offense we've ever seen, bro. Jahmyr Gibbs is quickly becoming my favorite player in the National Football League, period. People call Tyreek Hill the cheetah. This guy's a fucking NASCAR, bro. He's so goddamn fast. When he runs, it makes everybody else look like they're going in slow motion. You pair that up with David Montgomery, who they should be getting back from injury this week, the Knuckles side of the Sonic and Knuckles duo. Montgomery is that guy that really comes downhill and punishes the defense, just wears them out. They get sick and tired of tackling this human wrecking ball, and then after all that, Gibbs comes in fresh as morning dew, and you just got to try to catch this guy. It's next to impossible to deal with. But then on top of that, you've got some of the most elite talent on the outside. Amon-Ra St. Brown, in my opinion, is one of the top 5 best receivers in the league today. We all know Jameson Williams can take the top off on any given play. There's just so much speed and explosiveness at the disposal of Jared Goff, who, by the way, Detroit has done an incredible job of developing into more of a seasoned, more experienced and capable quarterback. You throw on top of all of that a top-tier offensive line led by first-team All-Pro Penei Sewell, and you've got a recipe for what the Detroit Lions offense has been for most of the season. Unfucking stoppable. This really is amazing, man. I think the Detroit Lions are a serious threat to hoist the Lombardi Trophy in February, and I would not be surprised if they did just that. But first, they got to get past rookie quarterback sensation Jaden Daniels. This guy, look, I don't really consider myself an old head yet. I'm only 28, but I mean, I've been watching football for a long time. My entire life, actually. And this guy is just seriously special, man. Every bit the talent that RG3 was back in 2012, but I think he's more mature. I think he's more poised. There's an aura about him, man. He just does not play like a rookie quarterback, nor does he carry himself like one. Jaden Daniels is outright surgical with the game on the line. He leads the league with 6 game-winning drives in the last minute. He's got that Tom Brady factor. He's straight up been the clutchest quarterback this season. In the biggest moments, this dude does not even break a sweat. He doesn't flinch. When the Commanders are in need of a game-winning drive, where most quarterbacks, especially rookie quarterbacks, would really feel the extreme weight and pressure of that moment, Jaden Daniels walks out onto the football field like it's a preseason game. He's just unfazed. And it's not an act, because his play backs it up 100%. He's extremely intelligent. He knows exactly where to go with the football. Timing's impeccable. He can make all the throws. He can make things happen with his legs, whether it be extending plays or making explosive plays. He can do it all in sequence at a high level. And that's just special, man. I don't know what else to say. We're in year 1. And you can make a seriously compelling argument for Jaden Daniels being the best quarterback in the NFC. Now, I've been jerking this guy out for a little bit now. I'm not like saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in the NFL or anything like that. He's obviously not. And he's got a few things that here and there that he can clean up. But I mean, I don't know, man. You name me another rookie quarterback like in NFL history, that's played a game with 0 turnovers and no punts. Oh yeah, there isn't one. No other rookie other than Jaden Daniels in NFL history has ever done that. By the way, he's done it 3 times this year. In my opinion, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow are 4 of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen. Jaden Daniels can easily find himself among that elite company very soon. This Commander squad isn't exactly fully loaded with talent, but they ain't hurting for it either. Scary Terry McLaurin is exactly that. Scary as hell. Easily one of the most underrated receivers in the NFC. He's really one of those go-to, do-it-all number 1 receivers. He can run routes. He can go up high and get one. He can toe tap. He can, be strong and break tackles if he has to. He can run away from you. He can do it all as well. You got a nice 1-2 punch at running back with Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson. A still very talented veteran tight end, former Super Bowl champion Zach Ertz, as well as Bobby Wagner leading the defensive end, another very capable veteran and a Super Bowl champion. So not only is there veteran talent and leadership on this team, but Super Bowl championship experience as well. But anyways, enough about these 2 guys. I've basically rambled on, wasted the entire segment talking about Jaden Daniels and Dan Campbell. With all that stuff out of the way, how do they match up against each other? Well, I think a little bit better than people seem to, give it credit for. Make no mistake about it, the Detroit Lions are obviously going to be heavily favored in this game, especially at home in Detroit, and rightfully so. In my opinion, they are the better football team, especially when fully healthy, which, they aren't going into this game, but still, the Commanders are definitely facing an uphill battle. But I don't think it's an unwinnable one. I think Jaden Daniels is that special, and the Detroit Lions are so banged up on defense. Yeah, they played well against the Minnesota Vikings a couple weeks ago, but we still have no idea how that's going to translate this week. When you have a defense that's that, devastated by injuries, you've got to take it week by week. They could play well one week and totally fall apart the next. But, with the way I think Dan Campbell's coaching this defense up, the chances of them, laying an egg this weekend are very minimal. But I've got Detroit advancing to their second conference NFC title game over the Washington Commanders by a score of 41-30. And now the AFC clash of superstar MVP candidates, namely Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Next up, we're talking the 3rd-seeded Baltimore Ravens at Buffalo to take on the number 2 Buffalo Bills. Look, this is easily going to be the hardest game to pick of the weekend. Both of these guys are used to being here. They've both been consistent winners in the regular season, but haven't quite been able to, take the next step in the postseason. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel bad for both of these guys. These are easily 2 of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen. But Patrick Mahomes has just been killing dreams and cleaning up in January, bro. I could easily see Josh Allen having at least 1 or 2 rings by now, had Patrick Mahomes not been in the picture. And Lamar might have finally made it to his first Super Bowl last year if it wasn't for the Chiefs. So, there's a lot on the line in this game. This is by far the biggest game for both Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen's careers. The narrative for the loser coming out of this game is going to be ringing loud all off season long. These 2 guys are like fighting tooth and nail to avoid the label of regular season warrior. Josh Allen is just barely over 500 in the playoffs with 6 wins and 5 losses, only ever making it past the divisional round 1 time, all the way back in 2021. Lamar Jackson is just under 500 in the playoffs, posting only 3 wins with 4 losses. He too only makes it past the divisional round once, and that was last season. Look, not to make this all about Lamar and Josh, but this is a must-win game for both guys. Not just for their legacies and future, but someone has got to take the next step and emerge as Patrick Mahomes' equal in the playoffs. Someone has got to take some playoff wins off this guy. The closest person to being the thorn in Patrick Mahomes' side in the playoffs thus far has been Joe Burrow, and he's not even in the playoffs this year. Someone has got to step up, because if Mahomes goes on to win his 3rd straight this year, he's going to just, distance himself completely from every other quarterback in the AFC, I mean. Not that he hasn't already distanced himself and separated himself, but at this point it's just unsurmountable. Josh and Lamar, as great as they are, they're great quarterbacks for sure. Surefire future Hall of Famers, in my opinion, but they risk being afterthoughts in the shadow of Patrick Mahomes' legacy if they don't start, snatching Super Bowls away from this guy. But anyways, enough rambling about that. Let's discuss the matchup. This just so happens to be another rematch from the regular season. Lamar, Derrick Henry, and the Ravens put an absolute shit stomping on the Bills, dude. 35-10. Mind you, I mean, the Bills were dealing with some injuries on the defensive side, but, King Henry rushes for, about 200 yards in that game with a score, and did just about the same thing last week to the Steelers. Just under 190 yards, about 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry has been a huge difference maker for the Ravens. Going into the playoffs in years past, teams could really focus in and zone in on stopping Lamar Jackson. You can't do that shit anymore. You have to account for 22, because if you don't, he's going to eat your ass alive. And even if you do manage to find a way to slow down Lamar, the Ravens are undefeated when King Henry goes over 100 yards. So, that really puts the defense in a compromising position when it comes to the run. And we haven't even talked about Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. I'm not sure if Zay Flowers' availability. Hopefully they can get him back this week. He got a little banged up last week. We'll have to keep an eye on that. If not, guys like Nelson Aguilar and Isaiah Likely will have to step up and fill those shoes. But I mean, ever since losing to Philly, Baltimore has been on a roll, and Lamar's been running his ass off. The trenches are going to be really important in this game, as they are in every game, but specifically the Ravens pass rush against the Buffalo Bills offensive line. I think the Buffalo Bills front seven on defense is, they're going to have their hands full with Lamar and Derrick Henry. Their pass rush isn't too crazy anyway, so I don't really see them leaning too much into that this week. On the opposite side of the ball, it's going to come down to how much pressure Baltimore can put on Josh Allen. The Ravens have the number 2 pass rush in the NFL right now, but Josh Allen is really hard to bring down. And when you put Josh Allen in those kind of positions where he has to, improvise and play outside of the game plan, that's when he starts putting on the superhero cape and, making ridiculous plays. I think Kyle Van Noy is going to be a key piece in terms of containing Josh Allen. If the pass rush can get home like they did the first time around, I think Baltimore is going to win this football game again. However, Baltimore isn't exactly lights out in the secondary. If Buffalo's offense can step up, keep Josh Allen clean, and give him time to get the passing game going, I believe, they have a good chance of winning too. But here's why I give the advantage to Baltimore. I don't know if Buffalo has the defense to prevent Baltimore from scoring points. And on the flip side, I think the Ravens are one of the very few teams who match up particularly well against Buffalo on both sides of the football. I don't think the Bills are going to get where they need to go just running the ball to James Cook. In my opinion, the Bills are going to have to win a shootout, which, don't get me wrong, I think they're entirely capable of doing so. But I think if the Ravens play up to their usual standard, it's going to take an above average effort from the Bills on both sides of the ball, which again is entirely possible, but it's not something you should ever count on. Even with all that being said though, I went back and forth on this one so many times. This is really such a juicy matchup. These are 2 AFC heavyweights going at it. I really wouldn't be surprised with any outcome. But I'm going with Baltimore. I think Derrick Henry makes all the difference in the world. They have a way better pass rush, a way better overall defense. They have a way better running game, and those are all things that carry over and translate into playoff wins in January. And also, it's the style of football that travels. Remember, they're going to Buffalo this time around, and Bills Mafia always provides one hell of a home field advantage. I think it'll be a lot closer this time around, but I got the Ravens advancing once again to the AFC title game to take on the Kansas City Chiefs for the second consecutive year. Ravens 35, Bills 27. Okay, and last but not least, let's get into the number 4 LA Rams versus the number 2 Philadelphia Eagles. Now look, let's not pretend like Saquon Barkley didn't straight up put belt to ass against the Rams defense in LA earlier this season. Bro, Saquon did whatever he wanted to the Rams, specifically in the second half. First play from scrimmage in the third quarter, he just busts one and he goes 70. Then, to close the game out and completely slam the door shut in the face of Sean McVay and the LA Rams, bro, he goes 70 plus again for his second home run of the game, finishing with an absolutely ludicrous 255 rushing yards, over 300 total yards from scrimmage, and 2 touchdowns. Woo, yeah, needless to say, I think it's a pretty safe bet to assume LA is going to completely sell out against the run this go around. You got to think LA is going to load the shit out of the box, and if they play action or any type of RPOs or anything like that, they're going to be attacking the backfield every single time and just making Jalen pull it. Very similar to what Pittsburgh did to Lamar last week. when he pulled the ball and ran it on 4 consecutive plays because Pittsburgh refused to take their attention away from Derrick Henry. Only difference being, in my opinion, Hurts isn't quite the playmaker Lamar Jackson is outside the pocket. He can definitely make plays with his legs. He does it all the time, but he is nowhere near the threat Lamar is with the ball in his hands as a runner. And Lamar is extremely good at throwing the football outside the pocket and off platform, which hasn't exactly been Jalen's strong suit this season. That being said, just because the Rams try to go all out in stopping the run doesn't mean they're going to be able to. That offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles is the most dominant in football. They move grown men off the line against their will better and more consistently than anyone. They're by far the best pulling offensive line in the league as well. And run blocking and pass protection goes without saying. A lot of Jalen's sacks come from, they're a result of him holding the ball too long, sometimes trying to make things happen with his legs, things of that nature. But now, at the same time, let's not pretend like this is the same Rams team the Eagles played in Week 12. What they did against the Vikings was absolutely terrifying, dude. 9 sacks is scary for sure, but Philly's definitely not giving up 9 sacks. I'd absolutely be shocked if that were the case. Either way, this game is super interesting to me for a couple of reasons. I think it's really going to come down to who wins up front, who makes the least amount of mistakes. The Eagles tend to hurt themselves sometimes with penalties. And, who can produce explosive plays at a higher clip. Even if the Rams sell out on the run, Saquon is still going to get his regardless. That offensive line is just too good. And Saquon himself is not someone you can really stop. You can kind of hope to contain and limit him. But when this run game is clicking on all cylinders, you're not going to stop him completely. On paper, I really think Philadelphia has the advantage. But as we all know, the game isn't played on paper. There's a reason why we don't skip games. There's a reason why we play every game every week on the schedule. Any team can win against any other team on any given Sunday. And the Rams right now are obviously playing inspired football. And that matters a lot. It really does. They're a different team now than they were a few months ago, and I don't know if they beat the Vikings if they play in Week 12. Philly just lost Nakobe Dean for the playoffs, who, by the way, was a key player in that victory against the Rams. 17 contributed probably the most on defense in that game. And plus, we all know about the tragic events taking place in LA right now. All of our thoughts and prayers are with the people of LA and the city. Look, sports are just as much mental as they are physical, if not even more so. The Rams are coming into this game with an underdog, nothing to lose, put it all on the line, team of destiny type of mentality with, the entire city and you could say even in a way the nation rallying behind them. And that's a really scary thing for the Philadelphia Eagles, especially when you consider the fact that, they've played before, they have tape, they've had plenty of time to make adjustments. I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles are the type of team to come off overconfident, to seem like they're a very disciplined football team in that way. But, that could play a factor too. You never know, especially, when you beat a team that bad. The Eagles passing game hasn't been outstanding this year. No, there's just a lot of complex factors going into this game. You match that up with the fact that LA has a Super Bowl championship winning veteran quarterback who's been in this spot numerous times throughout his career, and a top 2 or 3 Super Bowl winning head coach with all the weapons on offense, the defense playing out of their mind the past couple weeks. Look, if there was any game this week that was going to potentially produce a massive upset, I feel like this is the game that has the highest chance of being the one. And, although Philly, I think, is a very disciplined football team, I am picking them to win the game. I would not be shocked whatsoever if the Rams pulled this off. I think they're playing inspired football. I think the momentum they're carrying is very real, and I do think they're gonna play above and beyond their means to try to pull out this game. I got Philly winning, advancing to the NFC title game to take on the Detroit Lions by a score of 28-24. All right, guys, those are my divisional round picks. Let me know who you have winning this weekend in the comments. Who do you have on upset alert this week? Give me some of your opinions on these matchups. I'm sure some of you guys agree. I'm sure a lot of you disagree. Either way, I'm really interested to read what you guys have to say. Anyways, it's been a long video. I'm sure Ricardo's gonna just have a good old time editing this whole thing up. If you guys enjoyed the content, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. That way you guys never miss a video. God bless and have a good one.